Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. My name is Fauzan Muharramatul Islami. Today, I would like to talk to you about the enforcement of public activity restriction or PPKM. I've chosen to speak about this because this topic is interesting and becomes a hot issue to be discussed. Okay, first of all, before getting into the discussion, I have a question. Do you still remember with PSBB? If you still remember, when the COVID-19 case entered Indonesia in March 2020, President Joko Widodo decided to implement large-scale social restriction or PSBB. But now, the government no longer uses the term PSBB, but replaces them with the Enforcement of Public Activity Restriction or PPKM. Most of Java and Bali are expected to enforce these new mobility curbs from January 11 to 25. This government policy applies in Jakarta and 23 agencies or cities in 6 provinces that are at high risk of the spread of COVID-19. PPKM has differences with PSBB. What are the differences? Okay, the first differences is related to the scale of its scope. According to Coordinating Minister for Economic Affairs and COVID-19 Handling and Economic Recovery Committee, Airlangga Hartarto, said that PPKM is a micro-scale. Application in each region will be determined by the local government. Later, the local government and the governor will determine the areas that will be carried out such restriction. And the second one is submission of restriction for PPKM is now in the hands of the central government, while PPKM Java Bali is within the authority of the local government. The central government initiative is in the form of providing initial criteria for regional to be restricted. Areas that fall under that criteria must apply PPKM. Airlangga Hartarto said that PPKM was not a ban on activities, but a rearrangement of restriction on several community activities. The goal is that these activities do not become new clusters and the source of the increase in positive cases of COVID-19. PPKM regulates several things. And first is limiting workplace with work from home by 75% while maintaining strict health protocols. And the second one is online teaching and learning activities. And third is the essential sector related to the basic needs of the community operates 100%. However, by setting operating hours, capacity, and maintaining strict health protocols. And the fourth is limiting operating hours in shopping centers until 7 p.m. for eating and drinking in place of maximum filled 25% of restaurant capacity. However, ordering food through takeaway or delivery is still permitted. And then allow construction activities to operate 100% with the application of stricter health protocols. And then allow places of worship to be open with a capacity of 50% and must implement stricter health protocols. And then public facilities and social cultural activities are suspended. And the last, capacity and operating hours of transportation modes are also regulated. These curbs are not too tight than the requirements under the PSBB policy. Airlangga Hartarto has said that the new measures would only be implemented in regions that meet one of 4 requirements issued by the government. These criteria are a death rate that exceeds the national average of 3%, a recovery rate that is below 82%, active COVID-19 cases surpassing the national average of 14%, and then a hospital bed occupancy rate for ICU and isolation more than 75%. So, based on the data, I feel that I do not agree with the existence of PPKM. I will discuss this from an economic point of view. When PSBB was implemented a few months ago, the community economy was very badly damaged, and PPKM implementation program this time is no different from PSBB. This is inversely proportional to what is expected. The fact shows that the increase in positive COVID-19 numbers is still soaring and has surpassed 1 million cases in January 26, 2021. This is one of the things that can be an indicator of the ineffectiveness of PPKM. Not only that, but also the economic impact of the policy. Many small traders are then forced to close early, even though some traders are just open at curfew. Then only a few hours after that, they should be forced to close. I'm confused. What about the traders who work at night and from which they will earn income and to live and support their families and not to mention to pay their rent? PPKM in terms of entrepreneurs and economic agents of the hotel and restaurant sector is still less effective. One of the highlights is still large crowds of workers and dinners at restaurants, especially in the hours leaving and returning to the office, where the crowds are still found at many points. According to Chairman of Indonesia Employers Association, Balikpapan is Kalimantan, Selamat Bekerja Siswayo said that COVID-19 handling task force needs to tighten more at certain hours, especially during office hours. According to him, it is useless if PPKM is enforced operating hours are limited, if peak hours occur, crowds are allowed. 25% quota of workers if followed effectively and efficiently and by employers will be productive. But there are still many entrepreneurs who have not obeyed. Selamat doesn't deny that when leaving and coming home from work, there's a crowd. So he assessed it can be done scheduled at the time. For example, in Jakarta, there are traffic restrictions based on odd and even number registration plates of vehicles to limit unnecessary car travel. Meanwhile, in Balikpapan, the hours to leave and go home from work cannot be avoided because the office is open at the same time. The other different cases happen in shops and restaurants. According to the Secretary of the Association of Indonesian Hotels and Restaurants, Balikpapan, Febri Haryono, said that restriction of operating hours from 11 to 9 p.m. is also considered less effective because when restricted, people flock to come on time before the end of the restriction. No need to be limited for opening hours, but visitor capacity is limited. Not closing the small microeconomic, but still implementing the health protocol as well. For hotels, it has been restricting hours and visitors since the beginning of the pandemic, like a quantity at event is only 50%. Next, from the other entrepreneurs, one of them was revealed by the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Jakarta, Diana Dewi. She said that the business venture objected to the government's plan to implement PPKM. Because this policy is called will deem the economic sector, responding to some of the recognition of the criteria for attaining people mobility restriction, it is the same as we go back to the initial restriction that we once did when PSBB. Diana agreed that the government should firmly enforce health protocols in public activities. However, restriction on operating hours and capacity have the potential to make some economic centers decide to close their business. This policy will also have an impact on the slow economic recovery process on the community. Meanwhile, the chairman of the DPD Association of Indonesian Indigenous Entrepreneurs, Jakarta, Sarman Simanjorang, assessed various policies implemented by the government regarding restriction on activities cause uncertainty for the business. The number of policies issued during the pandemic hit business activities. Restrictions have the potential to lead to work termination or of layoffs due to the decrease in turnover. Shopping centers becomes one of the directly affected sectors. Chairman of the Indonesian Shopping Center Management Association, Alfonsus Wijaya, said that restrictions on activities for shopping centers, especially in Jakarta, will make the visit rate drop significantly. In fact, during 10 months of PSBB, shopping centers managed to continue to run deficit. Not only that, but also restaurants and cafes are affected. Alfonso said that restriction on activities and operating hours will make restaurant and cafe entrepreneurs lose their dinner business. Just like shopping center business, during PSBB, restaurant and cafe are also experience deficit. Therefore, he hopes that the restriction on activities are not extended and the government is serious in enforcing health rules and protocols so that the restriction measures imposed are not useless. I have advice for the government. I suggest that the government provide digital infrastructure to overcome economic problems caused by pandemic because Indonesia has great potential in the digital field, especially with the pandemic that forces business to adapt quickly. The provision of digital infrastructure is not only centered in urban areas but also rural areas. This can encourage business to capture digital business opportunities. Micro, small, and medium enterprises in Indonesia are helped by digital platforms. Meanwhile, the various relaxation and stimulus provided to the community and business continued until the end of 2022. This is because the effects of pandemic for the business cannot be immediately lost. The provision of stimulus and relaxation is expected to drive economic growth. With this condition, entrepreneurs are only trying to survive in the middle of a pandemic. So, as an entrepreneur is no longer when looking for profit, but able to survive. That's the most important, being able to survive and not doing layoffs. And then it turned out the government's policy to extend the period of enforcement of public activity restriction or PPKM in Java and Bali until February 8, 2022. More than a week PPKM applied, but has not shown a decrease in confirmed cases of COVID-19. It indicates the pandemic is getting out of control. The public activity restrictions have not been enforced fully to suppress new COVID-19 cases. Any changes in this policy require more strict implementation because the previous PPKM was not effective enough to overcome the additional cases of COVID-19. Why was it less successful? It is because the changes have occurred to its name only without any better changes for the implementation. PPKM this time had to be implemented more effectively and directed. PPKM is not only cutting operational hours and reducing capacity but also evaluating. People must prevent the principal thing in the PPKM policy which is community mobility, such as shopping center or mall or cafe and etc. This condition is because shortening operating hours and reducing capacity. PPKM would not effective if there still were no changes in terms of implementation and strategy. Considering there is a greatly increased number of COVID-19 cases, especially in areas with minimum detection of the supervision system. If there are no proper and strict in restriction on mobility, this PPKM implementation will not be successful. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that the implementation of PPKM is still less effective. In my view, the local government should be able to enforce the discipline rules of health protocols firmly so it can reduce the rate of COVID-19 transmission in the community. The process improving pandemic management and enforcement of rules must continue. This aims to ensure the local government have independence in controlling the rate of transmission of the virus. The government must also take firm action against health protocol violators, such as giving a warning to allow enforcement in the form of penalties, social work, and even revocation of business permits. It aims to significantly increase public awareness, including in areas and business locations such as markets and densely populated settlements. This is much more effective compared to the implementation of PPKM, which will have a serious impact, especially the economy of the community. The sooner we recover, the sooner the economy will be rebuilt. To prevent the spread of COVID-19, we must implement health protocols 3W. Wear a mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. May God always protect us all and give us good endurance. I hope COVID-19 pandemic will over soon, okay? I think that's all for today, and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.